Hi, welcome to the Bowers Museum. I am Peter Fetterman, a collector, owner of Peter Fetterman Gallery in Santa Monica, and the curator of The Power of Photography. It's my real pleasure to guide you through a virtual highlights tour of this exhibition. While this virtual experience offers a glimpse, the full splendor of the exhibition awaits you in person, and I encourage you to experience it firsthand before it closes on January the 14th, 2024. During your visit, you'll also have the opportunity to delve into 8 other global collection galleries presently showcased. To secure your spot, head to bowers.org and book your tickets today. The Power Photography is organized by Photographic Traveling Exhibitions, Los Angeles, California. This presentation of The Power of Photography is sponsored by the Ronald C. and Christine Pietersma Family Trust. Thank you. I'm standing next to a picture taken by David Montgomery of Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth II. She's my queen, so I have a special attraction towards her. I always love about this photograph is that the queen is so natural, and you have to realize she's the head of state, and one presumes she has a big household staff that could make her a beautiful log fire, but instead she's sitting next to a $20 CVS electric heater, which always puts a smile on my face. I'm standing next to actually the first photograph I ever bought for $400 way back in 1979. This is a photograph taken in 1949 by Matt Chavneau, a great Hollywood-based photographer. I just fell in love with this image because it evoked for me the glamour of the film industry, and this is one of my favorite photos. I just love the mood and the atmosphere and the glamour of all we associate with great cinema. The print is so beautifully printed, handcrafted in a traditional darkroom, and it evokes the whole era of Hollywood for me. This is an image taken in London in 1953 by Thurston Hopkins, who was a well-known and well-respected English photojournalist. It was taken outside of Harrods, which is the posh department store in Knightsbridge, and Thurston was on his way to buy his wife some smoked salmon from the very famous Harrods food hall, and he saw this image of a driver with a poodle in front of the store. And like all good photographers, he always had his camera with him and immortalized it. I call it the driving Miss Daisy shot. You get a mental picture of who owns this car and the driver and the poodle. It never ceases to make me smile. I'm standing next to the photograph that really turned me onto photography. I was 15 years old and picked up a book called A Vanished World by a man called Roman Vishniac. Roman Vishniac visited, in fact, hid his camera under his thick overcoat and entered the Warsaw Ghetto. And he knew what was going to happen to everybody within the ghetto, that they would be taken off to the camps and exterminated. So he wanted to preserve the memory of his people. And I was entranced by the book and by this image in particular, and its title. It's called Sarah, the Only Flowers of Her Youth. And her father had painted these flowers on the wall of their tiny one-room place because he knew she would never see the outside. And he wanted to give her some sense of hope, even though it was false. There was a better world outside this terrible situation they found themselves in. Flash forward, I arrive in New York for the first time when I'm about 19. And back then, there was something called the Yellow Pages. And something made me look up the Yellow Pages, R. Vishniac, because I was so impressed by this photo and so very much wanted to meet the maker. So I mustered up the courage. I called the number. This man answers the phone. I say, Mr. Vishniac, you don't know me, but I've just arrived from England. I was so moved by your book. Could I meet you? He said, I'm very busy, but come tomorrow morning, I'll give you 10 minutes. So I went to see him, and I ended up spending maybe 6-7 hours with him. And his wife kept feeding me food because I must have looked like I hadn't eaten for 2 days which was actually the truth. And that's how I became interested in photography, and this image has always haunted me, and meeting Mr. Vishniak inspired me eventually to have the career I've had. I'm standing next to Steve McCurry, a really wonderful photojournalist, most famous image called Afghan Girl, and this seems to be one of the great highlights of this exhibition. However many times we've all seen this image in books, on the front cover of National Geographic, there's something quite magical when you stand next to it and you see the power of her green eyes. I call it the Mona Lisa of photographs. I'm standing next to one of the greatest photographs ever taken of Audrey Hepburn. The picture was taken by the great English fashion photographer Norman Parkinson, who was commissioned by British Vogue to take this image of Audrey. Now, who doesn't love Audrey? Both men and women are madly in love with Audrey. Me too. This is one of my favorite images in the exhibition. It was shot in Rome. And what's beautiful about it is that the perfect combination of her pink dress and the flowers and her allure. Actually, portraits are my favorite medium in the history of photography. So if you come to the Bows, not only will you see something so beautiful as Audrey Hepburn, but a great selection of other great portraits of Winston Churchill, Martin Luther King, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Come get lost in this exhibition. You won't forget it. Thank you for joining me on this virtual exploration of the power of photography. To immerse yourself in the complete experience, I warmly invite you to the Bowers Museum, where a variety of events related to the exhibition are also being held. For details and to start planning your visit now, please head over to bowers.org. Thank you, as always, for your support.